Okay, everybody, we think we might do an abbreviated town hall presentation because we are recording unless there is strong opposition to that plan in the space among our friends and family. But we're going to record this, just an abbreviated version, and go through what we have, and then we'll be wrapped up in time to transition over for the work session. Does everybody in that corner agree with my If our decision, okay. Okay, we're making interesting faces. Okay, so thank you for coming. We wanted to provide this opportunity for anyone who had questions about the mail ballot election that's coming up. There's lots of information online and available in other places, but just a chance for people to come ask questions. So like I said, we'll be recording this and it will be available for people who have questions, but much of what we covered tonight will be available and is available and has been available online. And that website, just for everyone's information, is missionks.org/choose-your-adventure. So you can go there to find what we're covering tonight. So I'm Emily Randall, Assistant City Administrator for the City of Mission, and I'm joined by Penn Almany, Parks and Recreation Director. So we're just going to tag team through a bit of a presentation for you this evening. So what we wanted to do is just make sure everyone has the basics about how to participate, what is coming up, what is coming to residents in their mailboxes, and how they can engage in that process. And then also we wanted to talk about, why it's coming, what we're planning on doing, what we have done with the sales tax that's dedicated to Parks and Recreation for the 10 years in the past, and then what we've been working on and kind of what we're poised to propose if we do have this funding stream secured for another 10 years. And then just as we close, just one quick review of the calendar so that all of you can share the information with everyone that you speak to, so everybody can be on point and engaged in the process. So as I believe most everyone here knows, what is being proposed for this mail ballot election is a continuation of something that has gone before. So the history of this dedicated Parks and Recreation sales tax is that more than 10 years ago, we understood that just due to maintenance concerns and age, that the outdoor pool facility in Mission needed to be redone. Lots of just prohibitive maintenance, and definitely recommended a redo of the outdoor pool. And so in that time, there was a swimming pool task force that was formed to evaluate the best approach for that issue. And that group came forward with a recommendation of a dedicated funding stream through sales tax at 1/4 cent. That would have covered the cost of building that facility, but nothing more. And so at that time, the decision was to increase that a bit to 3/8 cent for 10 years to address deferred maintenance and other expenses within the Parks and Recreation expenses. So the voters approved that decision in November of 2012, and that was a 10-year sales tax that is about to expire in March of 2023. So 10 years goes by quickly. But that sunset prompted this current council to consider current needs. And the decision was to put forward a renewal of that dedicated stream along with the Parks, Recreation and Tree Commission, discussing all of the work that has been done and the goals and priorities of the community and what we have coming ahead, and whether or not the parks sales tax could help in those efforts. And they agreed that it would. The past 10 years, we're looking, by the time it ends, over $9 million generated in that time frame that we've spent, and we will talk about how those dollars have been used up to this point, but that's what brought us to the decision to renew the tax. That's Penn, yeah.
So what did we accomplish in the last 10 years? We rebuilt the Mission Family Aquatic Center. It was a pretty big undertaking. We added not just one slide, but 2 slides. We got a new diving pool, some new spray ground features, and our residents have been loving it ever since. We're seeing that use increase. Prior to COVID was getting higher every year. Post-COVID, now those numbers are returning to pretty high levels. So we addressed deferred maintenance at the community center. You'll notice a lot of messaging about facility conservation improvement programs. Our heating and air conditioning systems were completely demoed, and then new systems brought in and installed. We got new airflow features, new chemical features that just raise our level of efficiency, cut down on the number of inputs and costs, and bring us to a standard that's expected 22 years later. We adopted a Parks Master Plan in 2015. A lot of planning and effort went into that. A lot of surveying, a lot of feedback from residents. Created a recommendation list about 5 pages long. And we've tried to deliver on the most pressing priorities. We established a maintenance reserve fund for the community center as well as the MFAC. And then beginning in late 2019 and all of 2020, we put a lot of effort into a conceptual redesign of each of our 5 major parks. And then some of you are aware, we had a groundbreaking earlier this month at Mohawk Park. So first major park improvement in over 20 years. And if you count playground installation. So what did the residents want to see? This is as of 2021, a Direction Finder survey went out to residents. The most important element was the condition of park amenities. A lot of the amenities are original to the park right around, was it 2000? So we're looking at 20 plus years of park amenity use. And we've done our best over the last 5 years to make sure the playgrounds are safe, make sure the mulching and soft surfaces are playable for our youth. But they're at a point now where they need to be replaced. We've heard it time and time again. Let's take care of what we've got before we get any kind of brand new system. So we've doubled our efforts in making sure that our parks and trails are presentable and safe. And then number 3 on that list is availability of walking and biking trails. So that's continuously a discussion for us. We understand that it's a larger metro area. People want to use walking and biking as frequently as possible. So this, once the sales tax renewal happens with your help, we can start focusing our efforts in connecting to the larger regional trail system. And then this is another example of priorities, very high priority, condition of park amenities, once again, an availability of walking, biking trails, and then just as a high priority, maintenance of parks and green spaces. So it kind of underscores the message that we had heard from that other matrix, is that we got to take care of what we got. Let's invest a little bit more in what we have and then make it safe and usable for the future. So what are the needs and wants of Parks and Recreation right now? A lot of park maintenance. Right now, we've got 1 full-time maintenance employee. And he, luckily for us, is amazing, works very hard, and is a great representative for Mission. He's always outside engaging with residents and patrons who are utilizing our amenities, and he does great work. Outdoor park improvements. So all of these conceptual designs went through a vetting period where we created a stakeholder group. We presented to the Park Recreation Tree Commission. We presented to City Council. We held at least 2 or 3 stakeholder meetings with those stakeholder groups. And then we had 2 citywide public meetings. And then Broadmoor Park in particular, we had 2 meetings. So we feel like we got a great representation, a lot of actionable feedback from residents that said, keep working on this plan, keep moving this progress. And we love seeing all of the effort and support it. So what you'll see here is, in some cases, the 5th, 6th, and 7th rendering of things that had initially been started based off of that Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So we've improved, like I mentioned, the Facility Conservation Improvement Program, overhauled a lot of our operating systems here at the community center. We will continue to engage in preventative maintenance so that none of these systems come to the level of deferred maintenance that they had before. Mission Family Aquatic Center, we continue to invest roughly $100,000 each year in improving those systems, whether it's replacing pumps or overhauling the seating or switching out the UV bulbs. We take pride in what we've got and want to take care of it. And then other items of focus, trail expansion, additional green space, and then expanding our efforts and maintaining our tree canopy. So here is conceptual park layout for Mohawk. This is one of those that began in late 2019, went through stakeholder iterations at least 3 times, and then multiple Park Recreation Tree Commission meetings and multiple council meetings. So in all, our entire conceptual design plan calls for roughly $9.5 to $10 million of investment. So it's at that point where you see that large number and you think, how is that even feasible? And when you consider that the last 10-year Parks and Recreation sales tax brought in roughly 9 million, we're hopeful that if the community supports it, we'll have a funding source to kind of help us move towards that realization. So there's opportunities for value engineering, but this is the best layout that we could get based on resident feedback, based on efficiencies, based on Parks and Recreation needs. But you'll notice all the elements are central to the park. The parking lot is moved from the west side to the south, and that's in an effort to keep it nice and close to all of the amenities without having to cross over long distances. Phase 1 construction begins in roughly 2 weeks. That's why we had a groundbreaking earlier this month. And what we'll see then is that parking lot on the bottom and those 2 brown rectangles, that's the shelter on the north and then the restrooms on the south, as well as tiered seating, a plaza that connects to our trail tie-ins there. And then phase 2 is delivering on the playground, which we had a lot of feedback to make sure that that included communities for all ages and children and adults with special needs to make sure that we meet all of their needs. So it's poured in place rubber, shade sail systems, and then there's a sport court with pickleball and basketball opportunities. This is Waterworks conceptual park design. And one of the interesting elements of Waterworks is we set up a stakeholder meeting, and almost like Kismet, we came to a consensus virtually in that first meeting of what the park should contain, what it should look like. And this is the result. It's a trail system that ties north and then continues south. The one on the western edge there was driven by students using this as a pass-through to get from their neighborhoods up to Rushton Elementary, which is on the northern edge there. And so that's why it kind of takes on that figure 8 look. And it really brings a unique feel and opportunity for us to program that lower circle or oval with poured in place rubber, some features that are built into the natural slope of the land, and obviously include shade sail systems. We would replace the shelter that's on site and then add permanent restrooms. So back in 2015, that was #1 feedback. Make sure we get more restrooms, more permanent restrooms at all of our parks. Parents just didn't want to come to a park for 30 minutes to have to turn around and take their child home for the bathroom break. So this is owned by Water One. So we've had a lot of discussions with them, making sure that we don't overstep their planning process and that they're constantly involved in making sure that any of our plans meet their short and long-term needs. So they've been a great partner and continue to allow us to use their land, which is a great resource for us. One of the unique elements in this one is because there's so many students that cut through, we're planning on having educational nodes or panels that will either hearken to the Water One element or the history of the railroad, which used to cut along the northern portion of that. So we think that'll be a great resource for teachers. And next slide. This is Streamway Conceptual Park. One of the things you'll notice is that kind of hash mark black line. This is a preferred location for a dog park in Mission. So the last direction finder survey that went out to residents in 2021, there was feedback that a dog park amenity was as high as #2 up on the list to deliver. And so for that group of individuals that lives within Mission, it's a really high priority. And so this is an opportunity for us to kind of weigh the delivering a dog park here in Mission. Feedback we've gotten, it was originally proposed to be at Broadmoor Park. We had a couple meetings at Broadmoor Park, and the neighbors said, please find another location. And we got additional feedback from dog park, supporters that said, we don't necessarily need it to be in Broadmoor, but we'd like it to be within Mission's boundaries. So we began looking at alternatives, and Streamway came up more than one time. And so we feel like it's a great fit because it's the northwesternmost corner of Mission. It's relatively underutilized. It's the biggest parcel of parkland, and it's got a natural tree canopy that can act as a visual and sound buffer. And so we feel like including it here will give us a lot more opportunity to spread out use patterns and travel patterns within Mission. So this is a proposed larger parking lot. If we break this down into 2 phases, we're planning on delivering a parking lot that's about 20 stalls larger because we anticipate that it'll get a little bit more use. And then roughly 1 acre to 1.25 acres of dog park that's actually fenced in. So our plan is to eventually replace the existing shelter, deliver a permanent restroom, and then widen that trail system. So one of those, we've got 200,000 that's been earmarked for a park improvement, a dog park specifically at Streamway. So we're looking forward to that. I'm also applying for a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant this fall that could help offset some of the costs associated with that. So that'd be a great opportunity. And then the last conceptual design on our list today is Broadmoor Park. And this, you'll notice that same black hash mark. That's because the original conceptual design had that as a proposed opportunity for a dog park. We've since migrated towards Streamway. So this is largely keeping the amenities as they stand, but we wanted to focus on centralizing them as much as possible. So you see the shelter is moved more centralized. The playground is moved a little bit closer to the parking lot. And then there's a sport court, pickleball / basketball put right where the existing turnabout is. And so that kind of keeps all of the amenities nice and close for parents and those who just don't want to travel too far when they have their parties and rentals and stuff. So it's a great park, lots of tree cover. We are in the process of looking at widening the trail system right now and investing in that because from the Parks and Recreation Tree Commission as well as council, we got pretty strong feedback that we want to keep our trails as safe and usable as possible. And this was the number 1 priority in the park. So we're happy to be focusing on that this fall. And you're probably wondering, how does that factor into the sales tax? Well, Emily's going to give us some heads up.
Okay, so just a couple more slides and we'll transition to the work session. But so as Penn laid out, there are a lot of plans and there's been a lot of time and thought put into what comes next. And so I just laid out here the variety of funding sources that have been used to support some of these efforts in the past and that would be anticipated to support them in the future. So we do have general operating expenses, of course, for our facilities, and general fund and property taxes support those efforts. We also have a bit of funding each year from the special alcohol funds that need to be paid for parks activities. And then, as Penn mentioned, he has been aggressive in trying to use funding from the city for leverage for grant funding. So pulling in outside dollars to augment what we're doing to stretch that has been really effective and has played a major role in the phase 1 improvements for Mohawk Park, nearly $400,000 for that phase 1, which is just really significant. And then the dedicated Parks Recreation sales tax, of course, we're kind of figuring it for the large scope capital projects, and then again, those leveraging dollars for other things. So it's kind of a multi-legged stool that tries to pull from a variety of sources to not overburden one or the other source. So as we're looking at that, kind of how can we have a healthy and diversified mix to support all of the different efforts? Which brings us back to the sales tax information. So we wanted to just show an outline of kind of what is being proposed in terms of just the actual cents, dollars and cents, but cents in this case. So the overall tax rate for the city of Mission, you see there that breakout between what goes to state, county, and then within the city, the general street dedicated sales tax that we talked a lot about last year, and then the dedicated parks and recreation sales tax that is on the ballot this month or next month. So just really important for everyone to understand that this proposal, if it were to pass, would not increase anyone's sales tax bill in Mission. So it's the proposed rate is the same as the current rate. That rate is planned to expire in March, and then this new rate would begin at that sunset point. So if it were to be passed, it would not reflect a change for people. That 3/8 cent would generate approximately, as Penn mentioned previously, about just over $1 million per year that we would be using for those purposes that he outlined and those goals for improvements in the outdoor parks primarily. And then just as a point of reference, the 3/8 cent is approximately 4 cents on a $10 purchase and 38 cents on a $100 purchase. And the thing about sales tax is that everybody who pays for anything in Mission helps contribute to that. So not just Mission residents or business or property owners like a property tax would be. And so as we have people from outside of our community using our parks amenities, that's a nice way to share the load with people who are visiting our community as well. And so just to wrap up, the timing for what people should expect. So registration deadline was Tuesday. So everybody should be registered. We're on the heels of another election, so that lots of people may have already been registered, which I think helps for people to just take care of that step. We do believe that the mail ballots should be arriving as soon as the 2nd, but with Labor Day holiday and the Postal Service, we'll just wait and see. But I think most people should expect to see a ballot. Registered voters should expect to see a ballot in their mailbox the first week of September, generally speaking. If they don't do that, they can contact the election office, and if they are correctly registered, they can amend that. So please do tell people who are still looking by, kind of this time next week and a little bit after, that there are ways to get a ballot if they're missing one. Ballots are due back by noon on September 20th, that Tuesday. You can drop off the ballot at the election office at 6000 Lamar or at the county office in Olathe if you're out that way, or mail it back. And then we'll have those results certified, and then we adopt the ordinance. And then, as I mentioned, it'll go into effect following the sunset period. So I think those are the highlights, but just remembering that September 20th at noon deadline for ballot return. And if anybody has any questions, I'll just plug the website again, missionks.org/choose-your-adventure. And everybody should be receiving a mailer at home with a lot of the information as well. That goes to every household, not just registered voters. So people should have that information that way as well. Thank you for your attention.
No question. Happy to talk through any of the conceptual renderings here closer to them.
But otherwise it'll be like a wedding. So we've just finished the ceremony. Now everybody can transition for the reception. That'll be right over there at 6:30.